Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. We're talking Texas Longhorn football today. Critical season. Last year in the Big 12 for Steve Sarkisian, this staff, this very talented team, full of guys that are hungry to go out the right way in the Big 12 and hopefully get this thing done and bring it back to the 40 acres. But as we prepare and get ready, there are some things that need to be part of the recipe, so to speak, that I want to dive into and discuss a little further that may not be, the front and center on the talking points and the stereotypical things that we talk about in college football as we look at any team and prognosticate and do all those things going into a season, but kind of digging a little deeper and what are some of those underrated things. So today I have 3 underrated keys to success for the Texas Longhorns heading into 2023. I want to dive into that with y'all. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like the channel if you like this content. Help us grow the platform. Y'all don't even know what it does for content creators like out here like myself. Also, want to give a big thank you to today's video sponsor, Aura. Aura.com/fanatic. We got a QR code here you can take advantage of, offering a 14-day free trial. Let me tell you what Aura is. Aura is an all-in-one digital services security platform where you get VPN services, antivirus services, credit monitoring capabilities, online device management. So those of you who have children or other people in your home can make sure those devices are secure and try to prevent fraud, threat agents coming in. I'm very passionate about cybersecurity services. It's something I actually participate in my daytime job, but also when we talk about how do we resolve these things, you have access to a 24/7 kind of white glove suite fraud resolution program. So when you take advantage of aura.com/fanatic, just taking advantage of the free trial, if you don't have any type of security platform at all, this is a bevy of services that we're offering that you can take advantage and leverage all of these services to take care of your family, take care of your loved ones, and make sure you guys are good to go under aura.com/fanatic. I also want to give a second shout out to our sponsor, Last Stand Hats, laststandhats.com/fanatic. Now, we just partnered up with folks like Jordan Whittington, some NIL sponsorships, and some other athletes that are coming on board. So very exciting season and time to be a part of the Last Stand Hats family. You guys know for a minute we've been a part of Last Stand Hats family, repping it and having little contests here and there. And we're just excited to continue to grow and do bigger and better things. So hit up laststandhats.com/fanatic. Take advantage of the promo code Fanatic10. Fanatic10 gets you 10% off at checkout. Taking advantage of all the wonderful apparel, hats, golf polos, more merch coming on the site, even if you're not a Texas fan, to take advantage of. Very thankful for that. Now, getting into our 3 things, without further ado. Number 1, I'm going to actually get into the interior offensive line. So last season, we were very blessed to really from jump against Louisiana Monroe all the way to Baylor, essentially, really stay with the same 5 in the same position, right? And so, left to right, Kelvin Banks, Hayden Connor, Jake Majors, Cole Hudson, Christian Jones ending off at right tackle. And while we definitely saw an uptick in offensive line play from 2021 to 2022, thank you, Kyle Flood, and definitely seeing the development there. We had a freshman phenom in Kelvin Banks at tackle. We had a guy that just really blossomed being back home at right tackle under Christian Jones. All these things are positives. With that being said, though, I do think this is an area where twofold. We definitely need to get better on that interior, but it's also an opportunity for us, if we can stabilize this specifically in the run game, we'll have an opportunity to really maximize the rest of the talent, make life easier for Quinn Ewers, our offensive weapons, etc. A lot of people, I'm reading a lot of these off-season previews for Texas, or preseason previews for Texas, and trying to break things down. And I'm seeing a lot of folks mention that the biggest weakness for Texas per se is running backs. And I get it. I would have a lot of questions too looking in. I do have questions. Let's just be frank, right? When you lose a Bijan Robinson, who was the best running back in the country and the Doak Walker winner and went top 10 in the NFL draft, and you lose a talent like that, you're just not going to assume that this team is going to get better and things of that sort. When you lose a Roshan Johnson, who was the heart and soul of this, of significant parts of this team, and somebody who was, short yardage, had specific packages for him, everything he contributed in the, from an assignment standpoint, a blocking side, special, all the things that Roshan and Bijan gave us, I understand that you would immediately point to and look at the running back room as a weakness. However, in my opinion, really looking at this team and kind of how I think they want to play football in 2023 and leveraging a little bit more of the offensive talent they have in the receiver room and some of the pass catching weapons, they are still going to have to run the football, specifically on the interior, to allow those things to open up and develop down the field and have a balanced attack where you can leverage those things with Quinn Ewers, especially knowing Steve Sarkisian and his offensive philosophy. He wants to run the football. That's always been something that he has predicated himself with throughout wherever you look at his past as an offensive coordinator. So I want to kind of attack this twofold. There's the data side of it and kind of some of the numbers, and I'm going to run through some numbers here real quick. But there's also just more of the practical side, right? And eye test. So I mentioned the continuity there. This interior group was actually pretty solid from a pass blocking perspective. I mean, even if you look at Texas overall with our pass blocking metrics, we finished, and this is according to Pro Football Focus. So I know some of you guys, a lot of people use some of the Orange Bludge metrics that Jason Suckamel puts together, and so whatever metrics you want to use. But for this experiment, I'm using PFF. We're talking about Texas being ranked 22nd in the country in pass pro in terms of grading out versus 73rd in the country run blocking grading out. And that's still with us having Doak Walker winner and another running back averaging 6 yards per carry. That's because those guys were amazing, right? And I think we have some amazing talented running backs in our room, but they're young and not a whole lot of experience and reps back there like we had with the previous group. So one of the things that can ease that is if we increase the productivity with the offensive line. They've played a lot of football. There's a lot that we've recruited like gangbusters behind those guys, right? And so now that's where the competition comes into fold, and we'll get into some of the things we saw in the spring. But even if we go down the incumbents, so Jake Majors last year in the Big 12, as good as he was, I think he was the second highest ranked center in pass pro in the Big 12, but he's 8th in run blocking overall as a grade. And he only graded above average in 2 games last year in terms of his run blocking metrics, right? So Oklahoma State and Kansas were the 2 that I tracked. Cole Hudson was battling a shoulder injury last year. He was also playing as a true freshman over at right guard. He actually played really well through Iowa State, more so on the pass blocking side, but even run blocking, he had some not terrible games. His only above average game we tracked was Kansas. But after Iowa State, Cole Hudson's play dropped off really, really bad, right? And then he got injured in the Baylor game and had limited snaps from there. But could that be attributed to the injury he played with all season? And he's had off season, I believe, surgery, so that's why he missed the spring and getting revamped. Also hitting a freshman wall. There's a lot of things that we can talk about there in terms of specifically his play. But got a lot of experience, a lot of reps. We know he's going to only get bigger and better as he stays in the program. Hayden Connor moving over to left guard. So the last interior spot of the incumbents. He didn't have a game above average run blocking. Now, Hayden Connor was one of our better guys, him and Kelvin Banks, when it comes to pass pro, and he graded above average almost every game except for the bowl game, weirdly, with pass pro for Hayden Connor. But in the run blocking area, really, really, really struggled. So that's where consistency has to come in. Is left guard the right, place for him? We know his positional versatility that he offers with his size, his feet, and his brain. Kyle Flood is going to have to find that solution. And here's why. This is going to the practical side. We're going to try to play 11 personnel, I think, more so than 12. We are still going to play 12 personnel, but I think that with the weapons that we have, having Jordan Whittington playing back into the slot, being at home, and taking advantage of a lot of the guys we have on the outside, especially with, hopefully a healthy Isaiah Nayer coming back with A.D. Mitchell and some of the young freshmen we have. It is imperative that those guys are on the field to threaten the defense. But the only way you can do that is if you can run the football with limited resources sometimes. And that comes with, being able to run a lot of the stuff, I would say, in between the tackles, right? To be able to set your play action, to keep the defense honest, to dictate the numbers that are in the box. One of the weaknesses that Texas has had, and this is something we had to resort to with playing Andre Carrick in that sixth offensive lineman package, right? And trying to really go jumbo on teams just to run for 2 or 3 yards. And that's with home run backs, right? The coaches aren't doing those type of things and aren't taking snaps away from other receivers to give them to extra offensive linemen if you're getting the push and the things you're needing to get with your core group. That's also where guys like a Cam Williams come into play, right? Experimenting with physical profiles. Maybe we add in some additional size and athleticism in there. Cam Williams, he's worked a lot at right guard as well as right tackle. Neto coming in there, getting snaps at left guard. We saw the struggles they had in the spring game with the experience and lack of continuity that we saw with the incumbent group that I just named, right? DJ Campbell played towards the end and actually graded out his 33 snaps against Baylor. He actually graded out above average against the run, which is his strength of his, but he really, really struggled in pass pro. Again, young guy. He was also a true freshman last year as well. He missed the spring with injury, or missed the spring game with injury, not the overall spring. But the point is, Kyle Flood, you got to figure this piece out to allow the dynamic of the entire offense to flow. Because I believe if we struggle in this area to where we cannot run the ball consistently in between the tackles, I do believe with our backs and the dynamic guys we have back there, you pick one, whether it's Keelan, Jonathan Brooks, CJ Baxter, whoever, right? Jaden Blue, all these guys can run in the open field. I believe, we can do some things getting outside and getting creative just off scheme. But in terms of being able to consistently run the football between the tackles, to dictate how we run our RPO stuff, any of our play action stuff, and really staying on schedules on offense, this has to get nailed. Because no, we do not have a Bijan Robinson where we can just bail out and break tackles in the backfield, and a Roshan Johnson that can just run through a linebacker coming through the A gap and then still barrel his head down and get 2 or 3 yards. I don't know if we have that anymore. So this has to become something where I believe if it's a strength, it makes life a lot easier for the rest of the offense moving forward to try to win the Big 12. So my number one is interior offensive line play. That's got to be something that we nail in 2023. Moving into number 2, talking DBs here. So I have defensive back play without Gary Patterson. Can we force more turnovers? Can we build on technique and communication from last season? Because this is something where it's more so, hey, I like where we got to at the end of last season, even through the bowl game, going against a top flight passing offense and Michael Penix. I mean, we faced some good quarterbacks last year when you think of Michael Penix and Bryce Young and some of the dynamic passing that we did have to go up against and face. Even a guy like a Frank Harris and the way teams were attacking us was very, very interesting in terms of, hey, this is a Texas team that we can really, really take advantage underneath, and how we kind of countered that throughout this season. And a lot of people are going to look at this and say, hey, Steve, pass rush is the key to everything. And I totally agree. And that makes life easier for our DBs. But in terms of underrated keys, regardless, we're going to have snaps where we got to play football on the back end. We got to match up, whether it's zone, man, what have you, and compete and play football. And while a lot of people, may not have been the biggest fan of a Deshaun Jameson or Anthony Cook, those are guys that at least held us down and got us to a baseline and played a lot of football over the last few years. And both of those guys are gone now. And so just one interesting tidbit I have here, even when we look at, I'm talking about playmaking, and I know we're adding in, Jalen Catalon from Arkansas, who has obviously All-American potential if he's healthy. Adding in the young man from Wake Forest to our roster, that can help with the brother Gavin Holmes, to help with some of those continuity things, and obviously replacing a Deshaun Jameson in competition with a Terrence Brooks. The key to me though is can we be more disruptive? Right? Can we force more turnovers? Can we be more disruptive on third and fourth down? It sounded as this group was, because I'm not going to criticize him too much. We saw a lot of improvement under PK, and I give PK most of the credit because he's the one calling the defense. It's his defense. However, with Gary Patterson, I thought we did see just an uptick of technique. I thought guys were talking more, and it looked like we had more positionless, type features to our secondary that I've seen in several years, and that aligns with some of the TCU defenses I've seen in the past. So I definitely give him credit there for his imprint and teachings to the group, and even some of the little tweaks he could make on the sideline during the game. So with him not being there, can we continue to get better with the experience we do have? Because this is, for the most part, a veteran group. Even when I talk about a Gavin Holmes or Jalen Catalon coming in for a Cook or Deshaun Jameson, those are also guys that have played a lot of football. But we had 10 interceptions last year, right? As an overall defense. 4 of those were by my middle linebacker, Jalen Ford. 4 of them. And 2 of them were by Deshaun Jameson, who is now in the NFL. So the other 4 that are remaining, Jahdae Barron has 2, and then I think Ryan Watts had 1, and Bug Thompson had 1. We've got those numbers got to pick up. Forced fumbles, disruption. Last year we finished. I have the numbers here. So we were 88th in the country on third down conversion rate, 86th in the country on fourth down. Now, one thing we were really, really good at was average yards per play. We were in the top 20 in average yards per play allowed. So we really sound there in terms of forcing a lot of third downs because people weren't getting a whole bunch of yards on first and second down. That's a positive. We're obviously really, really good in our red zone defense as well as overall points allowed. But 88th in the country on third down, 86th in the country on fourth down. We all remember the dreadful Texas Tech game where we allowed, 7 out of 10 conversion on fourth down, and just some of the backbreaking things where it's 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 3, and maybe we give up a little bit too much cushion or don't have those. Not all the time showing that instinct to go and jump a route or make a play. I'd like to see this group have an uptick in playmaking this season. Overall, I think that takes a lot of pressure off of a lot of areas of the defense, and just allowing guys to continue their development and play with confidence. So that's my challenge to these DBs. Can we be more instinctive? Can we be more disruptive? As a group, if my linebacker and I don't know if Jalen Ford's going to manufacture another 4 interceptions from the second level of the defense. That's a really special year. So that's a concern of mine. Can we get into the double digits as a defensive back unit? Jahdae Barron did a great job on his own. Can we get more of that, even as a guy like a Jalen Gilbo subs in, Terrence Brooks being in the mix? I believe Malik Muhammad's going to get some snaps early on, and as he should, with how sound his technique is, a young guy. Can Ryan Watts be a little bit more disruptive? We know he's sound in technique. We know he's holding it down on the boundary, plays a ton of snaps for us, but we want to see an increase in that disruption. My third thing, and this is the last thing I have, it's the kick game. And this is something where we actually did better in the kicking game overall, in my opinion, last year than I thought we were going to do coming into the season. Something I was really concerned about, considering the loss of Cameron Dicker and what he meant to us in really all 3 facets, whether it was kicking, punting, kickoffs. And he handled all of those for us, the last few years before last season. And Bert Auburn, can we continue to just get the same performance? Honestly, I thought Bert Auburn was somebody who really stabilized throughout the season, and on this, didn't miss an extra point. He was 55-55, 21-26 overall, so that's 80% on his field goals on the season. We know that big one he hit to send the game into overtime against Texas Tech, which was his long last year. Bert Auburn was actually perfect from November onward. So the entire month of November, including all of his kicks in the bowl game, he was perfect. He didn't miss. So continuing that consistency and from him is key just for me, right? And a lot of these games, we assume we've had the issues in the second half. We've had issues, third quarter lulls, things of that sort. And this goes into coaching with Steve, right? In terms of tactically, do we control where we are on the football field? Do we control average starting field position? Do we control our opponent's average starting field position? Because we are going to have a new punter in here, Ryan Sanborn from Stanford, I believe coming in here as a grad transfer, taking over for Isaac Pearson and Danny Trejo, aka Machete. And we were a little behind our standard, in my opinion, from a punt game perspective. Machete did a great job holding it down after being thrust in there when we thought Pearson was going to take that job, but we had some challenges there, right? And so controlling opponents, those are some of the little. We always talk about special teams and hitting yardage, and these are things that don't really get emphasized until they actually occur in the game in the fall. And then we're like, holy crap, that just cost us a football game potentially, or that won us a football game. We know how good we've been of flipping games and finding some margin with our punt block capabilities. But when we talk about kicking and controlling field position and saying, hey, let's start these guys over here on the 10 so that we can get them a 3 and out, and then we get the ball at the 45-yard line already, entering scoring position, those things are invaluable. So we have to have the production from Ryan Sanborn, our new punter, who, looking at his career at Stanford, it looks like he's been pretty solid at being able to hit the ball inside the 20-yard line. Lord knows he punted a ton over there with how ineffective their offense was. So he should be pretty ready to go in terms of maximizing that. And then we had Will Stone with kickoffs as well. And I thought Will did a pretty good job. I mean, he doesn't have a boot like that, but he did do good with directional kickoffs and some of the things that Jeff Banks does. I mean, I've been very, very impressed these first 2 seasons with Jeff Banks overall, his approach to special teams, how we've executed, and not having flat out liabilities in the kicking game. But when I'm looking at, hey, what are some of the things that can give us that slight edge week over week when maybe we don't have our A game on offense, or we just fall asleep on defense or whatever, those are things where we can have that advantage pick up and be a weapon for us and flip football games. We've seen it from some of the best teams that have won championships in college football recently. There's no reason why we can't expect this group for Texas not to do the same. So those are my 3 things, right? Yeah, 3. 3 things: interior offensive line play, defensive back play, and kicking game. Those are my underrated factors. You guys let me know in the comments. I know I'm always long-winded, but I'm very passionate about these things. I wanted to make sure I got all my points across and not lose track of my mind here. So thank you to or.com/fanatic. Hit that 14-day free trial code, and shout out to Last Stand Hats, laststandhats.com/fanatic. Use that promo code fanatic 10% off at checkout. Hit that subscribe button. Follow us on all platforms, and let me know, what are your underrated factors? Don't tell me, oh, we need Quinn Ewers to play well, or we need pass rush. Those are things everybody talking about. We know we need those things, but what are the underrated keys to success in 2023? Hit me in the comments below and show us some love, man. Hey, horns always up, y'all. Hook 'em.